The tempered glass door of the Tech Elite coffee shop opened with a soft tinkle, but the sound was like thunder in the sterile silence of the place. Elias Vance stepped inside, the afternoon sun outlining his worn cap and the metal cart full of aluminum cans before the door closed, isolating the frenetic noise of the metropolis. The coffee smelled of select Ugandan beans and a sophistication that came at a high price. Modern LED lights hung from the ceiling like technological sculptures, illuminating rows of state-of-the-art laptops and executives in Italian suits discussing the future of artificial intelligence. Elias wore a faded, time-stained twill jacket and trousers that had already endured harsh winters on the sidewalks. His shoes were a collage of old leather and duct tape. He was the perfect image of someone who, in Marcus and Bias' world, clearly didn't belong in that successful ecosystem. BIA, the cafe manager, emerged from behind the chrome espresso machine, her professional smile vanishing like smoke at the sight of Elias. Her hand instinctively moved to the radio on her belt, her eyes scanning Elias for a threat that existed only in her prejudice. "Can I help you?" Bias' tone carried that cutting harshness reserved exclusively for people she had already decided, in her mind, were invading sacred space. "I'd just like a glass of water, please." Elias's voice was calm, deep, and possessed such perfect diction that it caused a brief short circuit in Bias' logic. It wasn't the voice of someone who lived on the streets according to her stereotypes. Have you ever entered a space and felt the invisible weight of assumptions crushing your shoulders? If you believe that human dignity shouldn't be measured by the label on your clothes or the shine of your shoes, click the subscribe button now. What you're about to witness will restore your faith that karma isn't just a word, but a force of nature that never forgets a debt. Bias' expression shifted to a disdain she no longer bothered to hide. "Mineral water costs 12 reais, sir. This establishment is for paying customers. There's a public water fountain in the square 3 blocks from here. I believe that would be more appropriate for your profile." Behind her, through a glass partition, the main hall was filled with brilliant minds in technology. Marcus, a senior programmer who prided himself on being the city's prodigy, laughed loudly without taking his eyes off his retina screen. "Leave him alone, BIA, Marcus said, his voice bathed in youthful arrogance. "He's probably just looking for a Wi-Fi signal to try and understand how the 21st century works." Marcus turned his $3,000 MacBook toward Elias, a mocking smile shaping his face. "You know what this is, Grandpa? This is the future. This is for people who produce wealth, not for people who live off what the world discards." "I have an access card," Elias said, ignoring the insult. He pulled a silver card from his pocket, its magnetic chip slightly worn with age but still legible. "This card grants me lifetime access to facilities linked to the Sterling Foundation." BIA picked up the card with her fingertips, as if it were contaminated with a contagious disease. She examined it with theatrical scorn, turning it from side to side under the light. "This says Elias Vance. Do you have any photo ID? We've had serious problems with homeless people stealing wallets in hotels. Fraud, identity theft. People using other people's names to get benefits they don't deserve." The cafe door opened again, this time violently. Mr. Sterling, the billionaire CEO of the country's largest multinational technology company, entered surrounded by a retinue of assistants and security guards. Marcus jumped from his chair as if he'd been electrocuted, adjusting his tie with trembling hands. "Mr. Sterling. Everything is ready for the presentation of the new defense kernel. It's infallible, I guarantee it." Sterling, a 60-year-old man with weary eyes, tired as if he'd seen it all, didn't even look at Marcus. His attention was captured by Elias's figure at the counter, who maintained an erect, almost military posture, despite the rags he wore. "Problem here, BIA?" Marcus interrupted, trying to assert authority in front of his boss. "This gentleman is insisting he's a VIP member. He's clearly disturbing the peace of our investors." Marcus moved closer to Elias, using his extra 20 centimeters of height to try and intimidate the older man. "Listen here, old man. This isn't a communal cafeteria. Here we train advanced programming language models. Here we deal with algorithms worth billions. You don't have the intelligence, you don't have the suit, and you definitely don't have the purpose to breathe the same air as us." At that exact moment, digital chaos ensued. All the LED screens scattered throughout the cafe began flashing a pulsating red. A high-pitched sound, a system error beep, began to echo through the speakers, overpowering the ambient music. "What's happening?" Sterling shouted, his voice thick with panic. Marcus rushed back to his computer, his fingers frantically tapping the keyboard. "It's a zero-day attack. The system is suffering a massive buffer overflow. Someone is injecting malicious code directly into our root. I can't block it." The firewall crashed like it was made of paper. The cafe had become a high-class madhouse. Executives screamed as they watched their data being encrypted in real time. Marcus was sweating profusely, his face as pale as a ghost. "I don't know what to do. The code is self-destructing and taking the servers with it." Elias Vance dropped his bag of cans on the floor with a metallic thud that cut through the hysteria. Without asking permission, he walked over to Marcus's main laptop. The young programmer tried to shove him away with a sharp shove. "Get out of here, you madman. You'll make things worse with your dirty hands." "But Mr. Sterling stepped forward and grabbed Marcus's arm with surprising force. "Shut up and look at his hands," Sterling whispered, his voice trembling with recognition. Elias didn't hesitate. His fingers, though calloused and marked by manual labor, began to dance across the keyboard with a cadence Marcus could never replicate. It wasn't just typing, it was a symphony of commands in pure machine language. Emerald green lines of code began to descend across the screen, devouring the red error like a predator. "The attack is coming from a hidden server in Luxembourg," Elias explained, his voice now filling the cafe with the absolute authority of a world architect. "You left the logical debugging door open. It's like locking the mansion and leaving the key under the doormat. Pretentious amateurism." In exactly 30 seconds, the system stabilized. The silence that followed in the cafe was so dense that Marcus's panting breath could be heard. Mr. Sterling walked slowly to Elias and, in front of all his employees, made a deep, almost sacred bow. "Dr. Vance. Elias. We thought you had died on that expedition. 10 years. Where have you been? I'm tired of the world of machines, Sterling. They're too cold, too linear. I prefer the complexity of the streets, where you learn to read people's souls before you read their resumes," Elias said, looking directly into Marcus's eyes and then into Bias. "And what I read here today was a system failure that no software update can fix, the total failure of human empathy. If this moment of justice cleansed your soul, if seeing arrogance dismantled by a man the world discarded as trash touched your heart, click the subscribe button and smash that like button now. What happens next will show that when fate decides to collect the debt, it doesn't accept installments." Marcus tried to stammer, his face alternating between the red of shame and the white of terror. "Dr. Vance. Please. I had no idea who you were. If I had known you were the creator of the protocol I use every day." Elias cut him off with a simple gesture. "That's your biggest bug, Marcus. You shouldn't need to know I'm a genius to treat me politely. You decided I was inferior based on my smell and my clothes. You dismissed me from the human race before even hearing what I had to say." Mr. Sterling turned to his entourage. "Marcus, pack your things. You're not just out of this project, you're banned from any company that bears my name. I'll make sure every CEO in the valley knows you failed the most basic test of all, the character test. And BIA. I'm the majority owner of this building. The lease on this cafe ends at midnight. I suggest you use that time to reflect on how to serve human beings, not just bulging wallets." Elias picked up his bag of cans, the sound of the cans clinking together now resembling medals of honor. He walked to the exit, his old shoes crunching on the pristine marble floor. He stopped at the door and looked back one last time. "The new system password is humanity, Sterling. Try not to forget it again. It's much harder to remember than a firewall." At 67, Elias Vance was the most respected man in Silicon Valley. 3 Turing Awards, billions in patents, and a statue in his honor at the university where he graduated. He was the father of internet security. But everything changed on a stormy night in Seattle. His wife, Clara, and his 5-year-old granddaughter, Maya, were on their way to an award ceremony where Elias was to receive yet another gold medal. A drunk driver, an heir to a large company who considered himself above the law, ran a red light at 120 kilometers per hour. Elias didn't just lose his family that night. He lost faith in the system he himself helped build, a system where money could buy silence and where status was worth more than life. During the trial, he watched expensive lawyers portray the murderer as a stress victim, while he was treated merely as a statistician. Consumed by a deep depression, Elias donated 95% of his fortune to orphanages and hospitals. He no longer wanted the silk suits that seemed to suffocate him. He wanted to disappear. He chose the streets, not out of financial necessity, but as a form of silent protest against the vanity of the world. He wanted to be invisible to understand who truly cared about others when there were no cameras around. For 3 years, he lived off recycling, using his brilliant intellect only to repair radios and toys for children in shelters. He was Grandpa Trash, the man no one saw, until the day Marcus decided he was the perfect target for his bullying. In less than 2 hours after the incident, videos recorded by other customers in the cafe became the #1 topic worldwide. The hashtag the doctor of the streets accumulated millions of mentions. The image of Elias Vance, in his rags, giving a lesson in morality and technique to an arrogant programmer, became the ultimate meme about humility. The consequences for those involved were devastating and swift. Marcus, the young prodigy, discovered that the tech world can be very small when you become toxic. He tried posting an apology video, claiming he was under extreme work pressure, but the court of public opinion was merciless. Pressure doesn't create character, it only reveals what's already there. Read the most liked comment. Marcus lost his developer license and was sued by the Sterling Foundation for gross negligence for leaving security ports open out of sheer laziness. BIA, the manager, saw her upscale cafe permanently close its doors within 48 hours. The Tech Elite brand was destroyed. Nobody wanted to be seen having a latte in a place that turned away elderly people for being poor. She tried to get a job at other chains, but her image was etched into the digital memory of every recruiter. She ended up working at a roadside diner, ironically serving free water to travelers and locals, learning the hard way the value of every person. But the story didn't end with the villains being punished. Elias Vance, now forced out of the shadows, used his newfound fame for something much bigger. He didn't return to his mansion. Instead, he founded the Vance Institute for Humanitarian Technology. He transformed the old Tech Elite Cafe building into a free programming school for underprivileged youth and homeless people who wanted a second chance. "We're not just teaching code," Elias said in his first public speech after returning, wearing the same simple clothes as before, but now with the dignity of a prophet. "We're teaching that technology without ethics is just a weapon in the hands of selfish children. We're building a future where no one is invisible." The institute became a global benchmark. Large companies like Google and Microsoft began recruiting only candidates who had completed Elias's ethics and empathy course. He proved that the problem with technology wasn't the machines, but the people who operated them. 10 years later, the world still remembered that day at the cafe. Elias Vance passed away at 82, surrounded not by patents, but by thousands of students he helped bring out of obscurity. Where the Tech Elite Cafe once stood, there is now a statue. It's not a statue of Elias in a suit, but rather of him holding a bag of cans in one hand and a laptop in the other. On the plaque, the words he spoke on that fateful afternoon continue to guide generations. "Intelligence without humanity is the greatest systemic failure in history." What would you do if you met Elias Vance that afternoon? Would you be Marcus, BIA, or the one who offers a glass of water without asking about his bank balance? If this journey of transformation and justice has touched your soul, don't leave without leaving your trail of light. Like this video if you believe that respect is the only universal language. Share it with that friend who needs to remember that true success has nothing to do with arrogance. Comment humility if you've made it this far. I read every comment and want to know where in the world you're watching from. Remember, the world is a great servant, and each of your actions is a code you write in the book of life. Write something you'll be proud of. Until the next story, where karma always finds its way.